Albert Einstein, the wild-haired genius who unlocked the secrets of space and time. We picture him as a kind, absent-minded scientist, a symbol of pure intelligence and peace. But what if that image is only half the story? In the next 7 quotes, you'll meet a very different Einstein. Controversial, flawed, political, even shocking. And by the end, you may never see him the same way again.
You will make sure, first, that my clothes and laundry are kept in good order. Second, that I will receive my 3 meals regularly in my room. Third, that my bedroom and study are kept neat, and especially that my desk is left for my use only. You will renounce all personal relations with me insofar as they are not completely necessary for social reasons.
And that was a memorandum to the love of his life. When people imagine Einstein, they see a dreamy genius lost in equations, not a husband handing his wife a list of strict rules like a military officer or a cold employer. His first wife, Mileva Marić, was a Serbian physicist from a wealthy family. They met as students at the Zurich Polytechnic in the late 1890s and became lovers. They married in 1903 and had a daughter who died at a young age and 2 sons, Hans Albert and Eduard, who grew up and had very different lives. One became a renowned professor. The other one spent most of his life as a patient in a psychiatric clinic. Albert's and Mileva's marriage was strained. Einstein was deeply focused on his work, what would soon become the general theory of relativity. Mileva had to put aside her own scientific ambitions. Then in 1914 came this shocking document. Einstein gave Mileva written conditions for staying together. She must keep his clothes in order, bring him 3 meals a day to his room, keep his study neat, renounce personal intimacy unless socially necessary. It reads less like a marriage and more like a contract for a housekeeper. Soon after, Mileva returned to Zurich with their sons. They divorced in 1919. Same year, Einstein married his cousin, Elsa, who is 3 years older than him. This memo reveals a side of Einstein many people don't expect. Brilliant, yes, but emotionally distant, even harsh. His genius did not always translate into kindness at home. And behind the legend was a complicated, flawed human being. And what did this lead to in his late years?
I have become a lonely old fellow, a kind of patriarchal figure who is known chiefly because he does not wear socks.
Now the image shifts. The old Einstein in Princeton, New Jersey. White hair, sweater, no socks, a global celebrity. But listen to his words, a lonely old fellow. By the 1950s, Einstein was world famous. Children wrote him letters. Presidents sought his advice. Yet his second wife, Elsa, had died in 1936. His sister, Maya, died in 1951. His son, Eduard, struggled with mental illness in Switzerland. The man known for relativity felt reduced to a quirky image, the scientist who doesn't wear socks. In the end, despite fame and brilliance, Einstein experienced something very human: loneliness. His difficult relationships earlier in life may have shaped that final chapter. Genius did not protect him from isolation.
Nationalism is an infantile disease. It is the measles of mankind.
What? Albert Einstein, the gentle genius with wild hair, calling nationalism a disease? Not just criticizing it, but comparing it to the measles, a sickness children get in the age of nationalism and ideologies? That sounds harsh and actually dangerous, almost insulting. Wasn't he a proud German scientist, a Jewish icon, an American hero later in life? Why would he dismiss patriotism like that? When he said this in an interview in 1929, Einstein was 50 years old and already the most famous scientist on Earth. He had won the Nobel Prize 8 years before. Crowds gathered wherever he traveled. All nations wanted to claim him as their own. Germany celebrated him. Jewish communities saw him as a symbol of hope. America would soon welcome him as a refugee. But Einstein had lived through World War I. He had seen how educated civilized nations, Germany, France, Britain, sent millions of young men to die in the trenches, all in the name of national pride. He watched scientists support war propaganda. He saw neighbors turn into enemies. So when he called nationalism an infantile disease, he meant it as a warning. To him, nationalism was like a childhood fever, an emotional reaction that humanity needed to outgrow. He believed loyalty to humanity as a whole was more important than loyalty to borders. His words in 1929 now sound less shocking and more like a prophecy. Now listen to him explain his stance in more detail in the next quote.
I am by heritage a Jew, by citizenship a Swiss, and by makeup a human being, and only a human being, without any special attachment to any state or national entity whatsoever.
This sounded even more radical at the time. No special attachment to any country? In the 20th century, the age of flags, anthems, and wars, that was almost unthinkable. Einstein was born in Germany in 1879. He later gave up his German citizenship and became Swiss in 1901. In 1933, Adolf Hitler would rise to power in Germany. Nationalism would turn deadly. Einstein, a Jewish scientist, would flee to the United States. After fleeing Hitler, he became an American citizen in 1940, yet he refused to define himself by any passport. Yes, he was deeply connected to Jewish culture and supported the idea of a Jewish homeland, but he resisted narrow identity. For Einstein, being human came first. At a time when the world was dividing itself by race and nation, he insisted on something bigger, a shared humanity. That idea was not popular at the time, but it was consistent, and it explains why nationalism, to him, felt like a childhood illness humanity needed to overcome.
The economic anarchy of capitalist society as it exists today is, in my opinion, the real source of the evil. Private capital tends to become concentrated in few hands, leading to an oligarchy of private capital, the enormous power of which cannot be effectively checked, even by a democratically organized political society.
Einstein the socialist? Or even a communist? During the early Cold War? That sounds scandalous! In May 1949, at age 70, Einstein published an essay called Why Socialism in the first issue of Monthly Review, a left-leaning magazine. The Soviet Union and the United States were already locked in tension. Accusations of communism could ruin careers. Einstein argued that capitalism allowed wealth to concentrate in a few hands, creating what he called an oligarchy of private capital. He worried that big corporations could influence politics and limit true democracy. Was he a secret communist? No. He criticized the Soviet Union's lack of political freedom. He supported civil liberties and democracy. But he believed the economy should serve people, not just profit. Having witnessed the Great Depression in 1929 and the rise of fascism in Europe, Einstein feared that economic instability could destroy democracy. This essay shows a side of Einstein beyond physics. He was not only thinking about space and time, but about society and justice. Agree or disagree, he was willing to use his fame to speak on moral and political issues, even when it was controversial.
Had I known that the Germans would not succeed in producing an atomic bomb, I would have never lifted a finger.
Wait, Einstein helped build the atomic bomb? The same man who preached peace? Well, yes. In 1939, Einstein was 60 years old and living in the United States. Nazi Germany had already annexed Austria and invaded Czechoslovakia. Physicists had discovered nuclear fission in Germany in 1938. Some scientists feared Hitler might build a powerful new weapon. A Hungarian physicist named Leo Szilard approached Einstein. Together, they drafted a letter to President Franklin D. Roosevelt in August 1939. Einstein signed it. The letter warned that Germany might be developing atomic bombs and urged the United States to begin research. That letter helped trigger what became the Manhattan Project, the secret program that built the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. Here's the twist. Einstein did not work on the bomb itself. The US government considered him a security risk and denied him clearance. His role was limited to that famous letter. After the war, when he learned that Germany never came close to building a bomb, he felt deep regret. In 1947, at age 68, he admitted he would not have lifted a finger if he had known. Einstein spent the rest of his life campaigning for nuclear disarmament and world government. The pacifist had helped open the nuclear age. and he never stopped wrestling with that burden.
The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science.
Hold on. Einstein praising mystery? Isn't science about removing mystery? In his essay collection, Einstein explained that awe and wonder are the roots of both art and science. For him, the mysterious did not mean superstition. It meant the deep sense of amazement when we realize how vast and orderly the universe is. As a child in Munich, he was fascinated by a simple compass. Why did the needle always point north? That mystery sparked curiosity. That curiosity led to questions about space, time, and gravity. Einstein believed that without wonder, science becomes dry calculation. Mystery was not the enemy of knowledge. It was the beginning of it. If you still doubt that's the true meaning of this quote, listen to him speak about religion and God.
The word God is for me nothing more than the expression and product of human weaknesses. The Bible, a collection of honorable but still purely primitive legends.
This personal letter shocked many people when it became public decades later. Einstein calling the Bible primitive legends? In 1954, 1 year before his death, he wrote privately to philosopher Eric Gutkin. He rejected the idea of a personal God who intervenes in human life. This letter made headlines in the 21st century when it was auctioned as the God letter. Some believers felt betrayed, some atheists celebrated him. But Einstein's view was consistent. He rejected traditional religion, yet he felt deep awe for the order of the universe. His spirituality was cosmic, not biblical.
That does not play dice with the universe.
Didn't we just hear that Einstein rejected a personal God? So why is he suddenly talking about God throwing dice? In 1926, physicists were developing quantum mechanics. This new theory said that at tiny scales, atoms and particles, events are fundamentally random. For example, you cannot predict exactly when a radioactive atom will decay. You can only calculate probabilities. Einstein hated this idea. He believed the universe must follow precise laws, even if we do not yet understand them. So he wrote to physicist Max Born, saying he was convinced that God does not throw dice. He did not mean a literal God. He meant that nature should not be random at its core. But experiments over the next decades supported quantum theory. Most physicists accepted that randomness is built into reality. In this case, Einstein was likely wrong. Even geniuses resist new ideas. Einstein, the revolutionary of relativity, became the skeptic of quantum randomness. But let's finalize his understanding of God and religion with the next quote.
I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists, not in a God who consults himself with fates and actions of human beings.
When a certain Jewish rabbi asked Einstein directly if he believed in God, the scientist clarified, he believed in Spinoza's God, the 17th century philosopher who equated God with the orderly harmony of nature, not a God who answers prayers, not a God who rewards or punishes, but a poetic name for the laws of the universe. So when Einstein said, God does not throw dice, he was defending order, not religion.
Besides agreeing with the aims of vegetarianism for aesthetic and moral reasons, it is my view that a vegetarian manner of living would most beneficially influence the lot of mankind.
Einstein, the vegetarian activist? Wow, that's not usually the first thing we learn in school. Here in 1930, Einstein is 51 years old and living in Berlin. In a letter to Hermann Huth, the vice president of German Vegetarian Society, he expressed support for vegetarianism, not just for health, but for moral and aesthetic reasons. He believed reducing harm to animals could improve humanity itself. This might surprise people who see Einstein as purely a physicist, but he often thought about ethics. He admired thinkers like Leo Tolstoy and Mahatma Gandhi, who connected personal behavior with moral progress. Einstein did not become a strict vegetarian until later in life, in the early 1950s, mainly for health reasons. But his sympathy for animal welfare was long-standing. He once said that humanity's moral progress could be measured by how we treat animals. At a time when vegetarianism was rare in Europe and America, Einstein saw it as part of a broader moral evolution. To him, science and ethics were not separate worlds. Understanding nature also meant respecting life. Alright, that's it for this one. Which quote caught you off guard the most? Or did any of them totally change how you see Einstein? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious what you think. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more stuff like this, and go check out the next video.